Now, as 2025 is nearing completion, the shooter and first person shooter genre of games has been incredibly divisive this year. Early in the year, we had some single player shooters like Doom the Dark Ages, a game that many people were excited for, but fell short for many people. Fast forward a little bit to October, we got one of the most hyped shooters of the year, Battlefield 6, a game that promised to take the Battlefield series back to its roots, and while it did just that, and is by and large an incredible success, EA's recent practices with the free-to-play Battle Royale mode RedSec and the microtransaction skins have been a big topic of discussion lately. Then, in November, we got an absolute stinker in Call of Duty Black Ops 7, a game so devoid of anything new or creative that I called it embarrassingly bad in my review. But through the mud that has been the shooter genre in 2025, one game stood out above the rest. A game that meaningfully innovates on a genre that has been slowly dying without innovation, and a game that brings one of the most niche sects of the genre into the mainstream. I'm obviously talking about Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders doesn't just rehash an arena-style multiplayer system, or an arcade-style Call of Duty system, or a big open sandbox destruction Battlefield system. Arc Raiders takes one of the more niche multiplayer shooter systems and makes it compelling for even the most casual of gamer. The extraction shooter genre has been known for attracting the sweatiest of the sweats. I mean, it's a genre predicated on a kind of permadeath system. If you die in a round, you lose everything. Hours and hours of grinding and finding the best gear possible can be completely eviscerated because some guy decided to sneak up behind you and put your ass to sleep. This genre is not for the casual gamer, the dad who has a job and kids that only gets 2 hours on the weekend to play the games he likes, or the college kid who's busy studying and going to class and hanging out with friends. Because why would you spend the precious time you do have playing a game where hours and hours of work, potential weeks and weeks of grinding, can be gone in 5 minutes? That's why Arc Raiders is a triumph in what it sets out to accomplish. Arc Raiders has brought a historically niche genre to the masses and has made it so insanely fun. This game has taken over my life. I've been having so much fun with it, so let's talk about Arc Raiders, all its systems, features, and gameplay, and how Arc Raiders has brought extraction shooters to the masses. Before we begin, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and please consider subscribing to see more content like this. We are less than 50 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. Every single one of y'all helps out. I couldn't do this without y'all. But yeah, back to the video. If we're going to examine what has made Arc Raiders such a uniquely interesting game to the masses, I think the first thing we have to talk about is the world that Embark has built for this game. At the end of the day, you could have the coolest and best gameplay in the world, but if the space that the players are existing in, the map, the vibe, the tone, the music, the lore isn't there, then it's all for nothing. I mean, a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that is notable for being one of the best games of all time, has notoriously simplistic cover shooter gameplay, but it's the story, the tone, and more importantly, the beautiful world that has kept players hooked 7 years after release, and why it still holds so much cultural relevance today. In this aspect, I think Arc Raiders absolutely nails it. A game that I think the best describes Arc Raiders' world is the Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West games. In those games, robot dinosaurs have taken over much of the world and pose an extreme threat to humanity. Similarly, in Arc Raiders, robots known as Arcs have taken over the entire world and pose an extreme threat to humanity. But where these games differ is that Arcs in Arc Raiders are so dangerous that humanity has resorted to creating underground cities, and thus the central plot of the game is born. Humanity must send out the bravest, or dumbest depending on who you ask, people known as Raiders to go topside, gather the few precious resources that are left in the world, and bring their ass home without getting killed by the Arcs or other Raiders. Straight up, this is a multiplayer game, and so the plot or the why for you going out and gathering these materials is mostly pointless. But it's the way Embark chose to go balls to the wall with this theme that just makes it so engrossing. The maps themselves are beautiful. They capture the lonely, desolate, post-apocalyptic vibe so well, but instead of zombies or monsters, you have these drones flying above you, ready to fuck you up at a moment's notice. The points of interest in this game are beautifully designed. Whether it's an abandoned medical center, or a spaceport, or a dam, or a buried city, everything in this game's world serves a purpose, and that purpose is to create an atmosphere that I think is unparalleled in a multiplayer game like this. You know, certain games, when you play them, they give you that feeling. Whether you play Red Dead Redemption 2 or Cyberpunk, those worlds are so freaking immersive that you feel that when you play the game. People fall in love with those games' worlds because of the emotion that those worlds pull out of you. And I think Arc Raiders, in that sense, rivals games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Cyberpunk in that respect. I especially love the distinct cyberpunk feeling to the game. It reminds me a lot of Blade Runner, and I love that. From the points of interest you explore, to the space in between, and even to the way you extract from the map, it all serves with that function of curating an atmosphere in mind, and I think the game excels in this remark. Even the hub of the underground city of Speranza, which is nothing more than a menu system where you can upgrade your gear and buy new items, serves to remind you of what this game is about, what the plot is, and why you're taking a risk every time you decide to go topside. And I truly do think this extreme attention to vibe and atmosphere that Embark had for Arc Raiders really helps push this game into the mainstream. For someone who has never really tried an extraction shooter before, they might not know if a game like this is for them, but then they watch a couple of gameplay videos, see the vibe and the world that Embark created for Arc Raiders, and it might just entice them to give the game a shot when they never would have otherwise. Now, while the world of Arc Raiders might pull a potential player in, the gameplay is what's going to make them stick around. And again, I think Embark absolutely nailed it here. The gameplay for Arc Raiders follows the typical formula for an extraction shooter pretty religiously. You can play solo or up to a squad of 3, and you and your team load into a map, find all the loot you can, and extract out at various extraction points before time runs out. All the loot you extract with you get to keep, and every subsequent time you go topside, you can pick and choose what you want to bring out there, maybe a cool new gun you found or an upgraded shield, but of course, the caveat is if you die, then you lose everything that you had on you, so you're back to square one. Obviously, this genre of game has worked well for years now for a reason. The game, in many ways, is like a battle royale. You go out, find loot, and use that loot to kill enemies and make it home alive. However, that added progression of bringing weapons or loot you found in another match into a new one adds that feeling of accomplishment, and that added tension of losing everything at any moment keeps players hooked from game after game. But again, for the reasons I mentioned in the intro, the extraction shooter genre has largely been a niche genre within the shooter space. Arc Raiders makes one specific change that I think drastically improves this game's approachability, and is the reason why this game has brought extraction shooters into the mainstream. That change is the fact that Arc Raiders isn't just PvP, but PvPvE, meaning not only do you have to worry about other players in the world killing you, but you also have to worry about the NPC arcs that roam the worlds and are much more prevalent than other players. Now, on the surface, this change seems counterintuitive. Giving players even more ways to die doesn't exactly serve in the name of accessibility, but the way Embark has this set up is that arcs in this game pose much more of a threat than any one real human player or team. Look, I'm not sure Embark knew what the effect that this one little change would have on the entire game would be, but this does have drastic effects in a way a round plays out. I think, without a doubt, the number one change that this has on any one round is the fact that running into another team is not an immediate death sentence. In a game like Fortnite or a game like Call of Duty or Battlefield, the second you see a person with a red name on top of them, you blast their head off. But in Arc Raiders, since the greatest threat in this game isn't other players, but arcs, other teams are much more worried about dodging the arcs or getting help to take down arcs so they can safely extract. Again, With the threat of the fact that you can lose everything at a moment's notice, other teams and other people in general are much less apprehensive during encounters, and you can often peacefully coexist with other teams and extract safely. Now, let me be clear, this does not mean that every single player you meet is going to be friendly. There are absolutely people out there that will shoot on sight or might tell you they're friendly through the game's proximity chat feature only to backstab you when you're not looking. But that added common enemy for everyone in the round does deter a lot of people from turning every round into a Call of Duty match. Also, another thing I want to make clear, the reason this game is approachable isn't because the enemies in this game are easy or anything. Not at all. Arcs in this game are brutally tough. 2 of those measly little drones in the air can fuck up an entire squad if they so choose. That's not to mention the leapers and plethora of other big ass arcs walking about. Your best bet, without a doubt, is to steer clear of arcs, and I think that added tension of dodging the arcs, coupled with the relief of safely extracting, is an addicting feeling that has hooked many people, including myself. Now, if you do unfortunately die out in the wild, I think the gear and upgrade system within this game is pretty forgiving and allows you to never feel too down after you lose that favorite gun. Don't get me wrong, dying and losing your favorite weapon that you've had with you for like 10 rounds is absolutely devastating, but the way this game allows you to get back up on your feet by allowing you to craft new weapons with the supplies you find out in the world and upgrade your gear through the workbenches helps you never really feel like you're completely back at square one. There were some close calls, I'm not gonna lie. There were sessions where I died like 4 times in a row and my resources started to wear really thin from all the new weapons and gear I was having to craft, but in those cases, I could always go to an easier map, stick to myself, get in, get some loot, get out, and I would be back to where I wanted to be. There's also a marketplace, and I like that even the more common items like bandages are still pretty damn expensive. It's lore accurate. In a world where every little supply from up top means so much, everything is going to be hella expensive. But that option is always there if you have the bread and are truly out of supplies. Now, if you've ever truly hit rock bottom, there are free loadouts you can use to just get out there and try and recoup some of the stuff you've lost. Basically, what I'm trying to get at with this is that I never felt that I could never or should never pick this game back up and play another round because I felt as though I would be completely starting over from scratch and all those hours I put in would be for nothing. And as I've already beat to death in this video earlier, that is the main complaint or qualm with extraction shooters. Embark found a way to make the gameplay really fucking fun, the world dangerous but not hopeless, and the gear and loot system pretty rewarding and balanced. That dad who only has 2 hours to play on the weekend can make meaningful progress in those 2 hours, and if he ever dies, he'll never have that big of a setback to where it feels like it's not worth playing the game again. And I think that is an absolute triumph in game design. One last thing I'll add about the gameplay is the community. Now I know Embark could never really account for this, but I truly do think the Arc Raiders community is one of the more welcoming multiplayer communities I've ever experienced. I play solo with Phils a lot, and I remember my first game ever, I knew nothing. I went in completely blind, and this game does have a learning curve with learning the weak spots on arcs or what weapons do the most damage to what enemy type. And I'll never forget, some dude who was like level 30, who had been playing the game for tens of hours, was insanely nice, insanely helpful, and taught me everything I needed to know about the game. Having an inexperienced squad in Arc Raiders isn't like having an inexperienced squad in Call of Duty or Battlefield. If you have a shitty squad in Arc Raiders, that could mean the difference between keeping that purple weapon you love so dearly or starting over from scratch. And the fact that this dude stuck around, showed me the ropes, and got me out of my first round unscathed was super indicative of the rest of the community surrounding the game. I think part of the Arc Raiders reaching the mainstream is that many people are learning the extraction shooter genre together, and many people are much more forgiving of your perceived shortcomings when they know that a couple of hours ago, they were the same way. And I truly do think that's why Arc Raiders is going to stick around for years to come. To wrap it all up, I think Arc Raiders is one of the most addicting games I've played in recent memory. Not only is the gameplay fun, each round tense, and the progression meaningful, but the world, the lore, the music, and the vibe surrounding this game is one of the best in the industry. Embark caught a perfect storm of player approachability, vibe, gameplay, and community, and has made a game that I could genuinely see being a mainstay in the shooter genre for years to come. To divulge from the game a little bit, I think Embark as a developer has been doing some pretty crazy innovating within the shooter space with their past 2 games. Their last game, The Finals, is an insanely fun and addicting multiplayer first-person shooter with completely destructible worlds. And while The Finals and Arc Raiders aren't really similar in many ways, the one commonality that they do have between them is their insane attention to the vibe, the world, and the lore that the game is built around. The Finals has that super cheesy game show feel, and that vibe is exuding in every map, in every musical number, and even the commentators' voice lines during the match. Similarly, Arc Raiders' desolate cyberpunk world is seen throughout each and every map, and that lonely and desolate feeling is ever present whenever you play the game. I think Embark as a studio is developing a little bit of a calling card with their games, genuinely innovating takes on the genre with an extreme attention to detail for the world that the game is set in is a recipe that can help Embark transcend from an up-and-coming studio to one of the best and most respected studios in the world, and I can't wait to see what they've got planned next. Either way, that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below your thoughts on Arc Raiders. Personally, I've been having a hell of a time with it. It is so addicting. The graphics are so good. And just the vibe of every single round that you play, that desolate feeling is so good. And it has me completely hooked. But yeah, let me know down below your thoughts on Arc Raiders, what you like about it, what you don't like, what you want to see improved. I'm going to be reading those down there and replying. Also, stay tuned. We got more videos coming up. And again, if you like this type of content, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. Couldn't do this without y'all. But yeah, guys, it's been CGG. I'm out.